Howdy YouTube video folks. I'm gonna let you know that there's definitely gonna be video in this, but it's gonna start off without video. I'm gonna have some stills of like advertisements and the instructions and things like that while I talk about the game a little bit. After this part of the video, you'll be able to see me play the game on a real Astrocade. I'm going to be pointing my camera at a CRT and you can watch me play. So this video is for Candyman, which was played as part of Season 1 of Round 6 of the Astrocade High Score Club in May of 2016. This club takes place on the Astrocade subforum on Atari Age, so if you ever want to see what the current game that's being played, you can come over there and check it out. In fact, the current game right now is actually a prototype cartridge, and it's called Conan the Barbarian, also known as Quest for the Orbs. If you're interested, come on over and play that one, and if you see this video in a few weeks, then you'll have to be playing another game, but it's always fun to check out what's going on. Candyman was released on a cassette tape that could be loaded using the AstroBASIC cartridge. On June 20th of 2017, I published a video review of Ms. Candyman, which is the cartridge sequel to this game. I thought it would be good to have a follow-up, and plus I was also asked by someone who watched that video if I would do a follow-up, and since I was thinking about doing one, I figured it might as well do one. This game was written by and released by Bill Loos and Greg Miller, who make up L&M Software. This is tape number 18. It also included another game, which I'm not going to review here, but was like kind of the B-side to this Candyman, and it was called River City Gambler. Now, Bill Loos and Greg Miller also wanted to, I guess they wrote most of their games in BASIC, but they had the help of Andy Guevara, who wrote, I think he wrote all of the sequel to this game, Ms. Candyman, but maybe he wrote it with Bill Loos and Greg Miller. I'm not quite sure about that, but they thank him for writing the machine language subroutines for this game. And it's unclear to me how much of this game is written in BASIC, but by the speed of it, my guess is that it relies pretty heavily on the machine language subroutines that are built into Bally's AK onboard system ROM. There is a 2-page advertisement that appears in on page 51 of a 1983 issue of the Arcadian, and it covers Candyman, and it's actually a color ad, and I'm guessing L&M Software sent this into Bob, and he just took the ad and put it into the newsletter, and he didn't have to get photocopies of these pages. I made some high quality scans because I have the original Arcadian documents in my collection, and you can check this out on ballyalley.com. And there's also, of course, in this video, right now you're probably looking at the ad, if I did everything right anyway. I want to read you part of the ad and talk about it a little bit. So the Candyman is enchanted. There are 2 jokers and 4 gremlins, and the 2 jokers are named Tooter and Scooter, and the 4 gremlins are called Harum, Farum, Darum, and Scarum, and they play tricks on Candyman. Oh, it's interesting to note here, by the way, that Candyman is made up of 2 words, while Ms. Candyman is just 1 word. Well, Ms. is 1 word, and Candyman is another 1 word. So in this, and the advertisement continues, this factory is in a mess since the 2 jokers have scattered lifesavers all over the floor. The Candyman must eat them up as quickly as possible while avoiding the jokers. In Ms. Candyman, the jokers are called ghosts. I thought that's an interesting little difference, and well, these games are very similar, but I think Ms. Candyman is the better game, but mostly because they had so much more RAM to work with. Be careful, the jokers will get their buddies, the gremlins, to help keep the lifesavers. Are you up to it? This game will give you all of the enjoyment of its famous cousin of the coin ops. And of course here they're referring to Pac-Man. This also included in this game is a blue screen bonus score and bonus lives. A special note of thanks to Andy Guevara of Bit Fiddlers, who helped with these machine language routines, and it was indispensable. Now this is where they say something I don't quite understand, but they say this very detailed screen playfield is possible by unique features of the Astrocade, bitmapping using screen RAM to store the astounding video image, and with machine code programming to provide smooth animated detail of the moving characters. It is equivalent to 6K of memory. I think that's just a bunch of hyperbole. I don't really believe that. The Astrocade only had 4K of memory. Maybe what they're counting is the ROM that's part of the 8K ROM, and like the subroutines in there, they take up some memory, so maybe they're included that all together and they come up with a 6K figure. Really, I think it's just hype. The game makes use of the Astrocade just like any other cartridge does, or many of the other cartridges do anyway, by calling the subroutines built into the ROM. So without that, I don't think this game would have been possible to create. And as I said, there's a River City Gambler on the back of this tape. Part of this advertisement that's also pretty neat is there was a contest included, and it's called High Score Wins. Get albums complete with 3 of L&M's best-selling games, Nautilus, Secrets of Pellets, and Exeter's Revenge, a $55 value, which makes these games cost, so they sold for I think $17.95 each or something like that, or maybe around $18 something. So won each of these games to the top 5 scores with the earliest postmark. You must show proof of purchase if you purchase your Candyman game cassette from a dealer. If you purchase it directly from us, meaning from L&M Software, then they already know who you are. 1 entry blank will be supplied with each game cassette, and the contest ends February 28th, 1983. Now I'm going to read a little bit about Candyman and how it's described from the instructions. You load the game using colon input, which is typical of all games that are loaded from AstroBASIC. And this game will load, and as you'll see in the video that's going to follow up shortly here, the game actually has kind of an animated title screen with some sound effects, which is pretty neat, and one of the few games that I've seen that has a title screen like this. While all games kind of that were released, maybe not all, but nearly all games that were released on tape had title screens, because when AstroBASIC loads, it loads the RAM to screen memory, and they took advantage, the people who made games and released them on tape took advantage of this to make these title screens. But this one actually loads a title screen and then like runs a program that actually has a large animated character that moves back and forth around the screen, which I guess is Candyman. And Candyman, if you've noticed, well, you haven't noticed yet probably, but Candyman does not look like his girlfriend, his pal, I guess not his wife, otherwise it'd be Mrs. Candyman. But he looks a little different than Ms. Candyman does. A little simpler, but animated too. So the purpose of this game is you must eat the lifesavers, 20 points each, as quickly as possible while avoiding contact with the jokers and gremlins. During the first half of the screen, the jokers or gremlins will try to catch you. At this time, you must be evasive. During the second half of a screen, the jokers or gremlins will take up protective positions to keep you away from the lifesavers. Each contact costs the Candyman 1 life, and he will and he will nosedive headfirst down off the bottom of this playfield. If 1 or more lives remain, he will then rise from the bottom and take up his normal starting position at the top, and then the game resumes. Calorie count score is updated each time you clear the screen or lose a life. The calorie points are displayed vertically at the upper right of the number of lives remaining is displayed at the lower right. Each time you accumulate 2,500 calorie points, you become eligible for a bonus life and a chance to earn extra points. This happens as you finish clearing the screen you are on top. As you finish clearing the screen you are on at the time, or if you get killed after passing the 2,500 calorie point. The screen will turn blue and the sound will intensify. This is your chance to get these pesky jokers. Move quickly to run over as many as possible in the allotted time. Each joker is worth 100 extra calorie points. No lifesavers can be eaten during the blue bonus round. So you'll probably have noticed that you don't have to eat a power pellet or anything like that as you have to do in Pac-Man. It's after a round clears, basically, you are able to eat the baddies, which is neat. It's a difference that I actually enjoy. For each screen that is cleared, a new one will appear and the game speed will increase. For each 2 screens you clear, the gremlin that has been jumping up and down in the cage will be let loose to help the jokers. This continues until a total of 6 animated characters are on the screen trying to catch you and protect the lifesavers. At this point, additional screens will continue with added playing speed only. Play will continue until your calorie counts are greater than 31,000 points or you have no lives left. When this occurs, the screen will flash different colors and the sounds will rapidly change. Now, something that I didn't realize until after I made my review of Ms. Candyman is that I said that, because in the Ms. Candyman instructions it says there's a radar screen. I was like, there's no radar screen. It turns out there is a radar screen. After all of the gremlins and in that game the ghosts appear on the screen, you do get a radar screen, because then the gremlins can start turning invisible and you have to track them that way, which is not included in this game at all. While I'm playing the game in a little while here, I'm going to give you some overview on what my thoughts are on the game, and maybe a little bit about that. But something I want to bring some attention to, because they're pretty rare, is that there's a sort of an in-depth review of Candyman that was published in the Arcadian in 1983 in the January 14th issue. This was written by Michael Process, and it was included in the Game Player column, number 4. And he reviews Candyman by saying, "Speaking of quality and bargains, L&M Software offers both in its soon-to-be-released game titled Candyman, a challenging and beautifully animated game based on the Pac-Man concept. You, the player, are the Candyman and must race through a checkerboard-type maze, eating up lifesavers worth 20 calorie points each, while trying to avoid the jokers and gremlins that not only chase after you, but also hover near the lifesavers, the ones that are the last ones, to prevent you from eating them. You start out with 3 men, utilized one at a time." Those who played Candyman all said they enjoyed it very much, and were quite impressed with the cartridge quality animation of the characters, which can total 7 in all. Those characters, called jokers and gremlins, each have moving arms, legs, heads, and eyes. This is perhaps the main feature of Candyman that really sets it many notches above the other Astrocade chase games. For in almost every other chase game, and here he's actually talking about basic games that are chase games, you are merely a big square being chased by another big square. But in Candyman, there are up to 7 animated moving characters on the screen at one time. L&M, which hopes to have Candyman also available as a plug-in cartridge, also known as a Videocade, sometime next year, seems to be quickly rising to the top and taking the lead among manufacturers of quality games for the Astrocade. The play action continues in Candyman until you clear the screen of lifesavers or reach 2,500 points, at which time the screen turns blue and, like the Pac-Man blue screen, which, this is what they say here, but there is no Pac-Man blue screen, but when you turn the ghost blue in Pac-Man, that's what he was referring to. This allows you the opportunity to catch and devour the jokers, each worth 100 points. Also, you receive a bonus man every 2,500 points, which helps you to keep the game going through its 25 different screens. Candyman is a one-player game, and it would be a good one to make into a multiplayer game if possible. The sound effects are pleasing to the ear, and the color is good. Due to memory limitations, however, the playfield only has 2 colors, which may initially make it a bit confusing to tell the Candyman apart from the jokers. This is minor and will not detract from the fun that the game provides. On the flip side of the cassette, one will find the game River City Gambler, an okay dice game for 1 to 4 players. As a whole, Candyman is a fine game. It does not look like Pac-Man, but it plays like Pac-Man, and fans of the coin-up gobbler should find this L&M game enjoyable. And I agree, the game is pretty fun. It's a good example of what could be loaded into the AstroBASIC cartridge, and it's obviously not written completely in BASIC, but it's able to use the BASIC cartridge to load something, which at this time in 1983 is maybe not quite yet, because this was released in January of '83, but I think around this time what is usually called the Great American Video Game Crash was happening, or about to happen. And while some of us who lived through that time don't really remember it as a crash, like I don't think of it as that, it's pretty clear that the game prices for games did significantly drop, and around this time is when you could start buying games for $5 to $10, and even cheaper sometimes, like $1 in some places. And so if this game was selling for $18 and it was mail order only, and its penetration would have been very small, so it's pretty rare to have this game. But luckily, of course, you can play it from ballyalley.com. The best way to do it is what I'm going to do today is play it through my old iPhone, and then you can just load it up. So if you have an Astrocade, you can play this game. Unlike if you have an Astrocade, it's difficult to get the sequel to this game, is Candyman, because you have to have either a multi-cart or the actual release of the cartridge, which is very, very hard to find. Okay, that's enough about me going on and on about how this game plays and with background about the game. But the reason I do that is because I find that there's a lot of videos out there that review games, and while the game, gets some background, sometimes it doesn't get any at all. And while I think it's okay to have that, like someone talk over the video, which I often do, a lot of times I don't get the information I'm looking for, which is I like to know as much about, especially rare games like this one, as I can get my hands on. And so I'm trying to bring a video to you that I would enjoy watching. It's not really, perfect, and I'm pretty skeptical that I'll ever make anything that's really well made and put together. But this is something to look at and listen to. I might use some of this in my podcast one of these days, but really a podcast, I enjoy making it. You need video, and that's why the next part here is me playing the game. Check that out, and following that, there'll be a little bit more, possibly, of me talking about the game and giving some last minute comments. So it's about time you start seeing some actual movement here. That's what I would think. So I'm going to load this game from AstroBASIC, just as if you are loading it. I'm loading it from my old iPhone. So I've done that. I'm pressing play. So this tape load is 1 minute and 15 seconds. That is not because it would normally take that load to load in a game. And while it's already starting, I'm not sure why it doesn't fill the top of the screen to the bottom. Something's going on. It's actually about 19 seconds into the load. In a minute though, you'll see, there you go, not even a minute, just a couple of seconds, you see the title screen load, which is in black and white. Then it's going to turn to color, and you're going to see an animated Candyman jumping around the screen, which I think is pretty neat. This game is subtitled Calories Count, because that's what you're trying to do, is get calories for points. So I like that. So the game right now probably doesn't have any, it's probably silent during this portion of load. Now it's loading the rest of it. We've got about 30 seconds until the game is loaded, and then I can start playing. The characters in this game are animated, but they are not color like in the sequel, Ms. Candyman. Well, they're color, but they're monocolor, so they're not multiple colors. And that's due to limitations of AstroBASIC and Bally BASIC as well. The screen setup takes much less of the screen. As you can tell, if you can see my hand here, this is actually not the bottom of the screen. The bottom of the screen goes all the way to, let's see if I can get making a video of this in the dark. Can't really tell, but it's only taking a portion of the screen, it looks like. I'm already dead. I'm just going to move around so you can see the animation a little bit, and then I'll start the game properly. Here, this is my Candyman. These are they're called jokers in this game. See if I can avoid them all. I'm using my regular hand controller in this game, as opposed to like my adapter with an Atari joystick or my Atari 7800 joystick. And not because I just thought it'd be easier, and plus the other one makes so much more noise, and I'm just showing this as an example. So as you can see, the characters are they've got two animations, back and forth, and my character is moving his legs up and down. And if this was only basic and didn't use machine language subroutines, this game would not be possible. I mean, I guess it would be possible, but it wouldn't move like this, and it'd be unplayable. Luckily, Guevara jumped in and did write some machine language subroutines. So here we have the next baddie, or in this case goblin, that's going to come out. If this was the Astrocade or cartridge version of the game, that would be down below, and I'd say this only takes up 2/3 of the screen. So if it looks weird why I'm not trying to show you the whole screen, it's because I am, but you can't see it all because it's just black down there, and that's where most of the program is probably being stored. Alright, so now I'm actually going to play for points. That's what happens when you lose. It's just playing random values, it sounds like, and the screen is blinking random colors. I press the button, and I can start again. And what you'll notice is that my score is not updated. It is updated only when I die, which is kind of strange, but it works. Now I remember why I was using my Atari 7800 Supreme 4-way controller with this game, because the Astrocade controller, well, it works okay. Once you get used to using a better controller, it's hard to go back. So thank Ed Kelly for creating that. Alright. So thanks for making that controller, Ed. I use it quite often with as many systems as I can, including MAME, which is great because I have an adapter for it. Right, so, I guess when you clear a screen, I get my score updated as well. And you can already tell how much faster it's moving. This game I think maybe even moves faster in the end than Ms. Candyman, which is a pretty neat thing to say, or see. I might actually try playing a game of this with my other controller, see what I think. Alright. Okay, now I've just got one more to get. And I got it. So now I think this is going to be the blue screen? No, but they introduced a new character. So the graphics in this game are very similar to the sequel, except the graphics are color in the other one. The game rules are basically the same. The scoring is completely different. It works, I mean, you get scores for the same kind of things, eating the lifesavers and killing baddies and stuff, but totally different amounts. So like, I would already have, if I was playing Ms. Candyman, I would already have like about 15,000 points probably. And as you can see, I have probably about 2,000 here. That's one life gone. Okay, now I can try to eat all the baddies. And I think I get 100 points each in this version of the game. So I urge you to try playing this game. If you don't have a multi-cart for the Astrocade, and you don't have the original cartridge of Ms. Candyman, then you at least have access to try a version of Ms. Candyman. And this game it's one of the best games on the Astrocade, I think. It's really fun. It's not as good as a sequel, but it's nearly as good. And it's not just a good example. Oh shoot! It's not just a good example. It's a great example of what can be done if the programmers put their minds to it and were willing to invest their time into learning how to program in machine language, which is not an easy endeavor, as I can tell you. In fact, today I should mention that I uploaded the. Let's see if I can get that. All right. So I'm on the fourth screen, I think. I uploaded the disassembly of that I've done so far of Ms. Candyman. Probably not going to do any more of it. So if you're interested, you can go to the What's New page for June 26th, 2017, and you can check out what I uploaded today. And it's if you know how to program an assembly for Z80, or even if you don't, it's kind of might be interesting to look at the text file a little in a text editor. You can see how Ms. Candyman sort of works, and I put some comments in there for the graphics, and you can. Oh, now it's time to eat some of these guys again. Let's see here. All right, get some of these jokers, and they changed the name of. I think I already mentioned, but they're not called jokers. It makes a lot more sense because the backstory in this game, they are. I guess they would be jokers because they if you're in a candy factory and someone. All right, I got an extra guy. Let's see here. Oh man, I think I was still collecting them, so I ran into that guy on purpose. That's what happens when you get used to the other game. And I was doing that too in Ms. Candyman, which is all right. Can I? All right. Oh, do I have another one to collect? Oh, I have two more to collect. I didn't realize that. Well, that's the end for me. You guys should give it a try. Load this game up in AstroBASIC. I'm actually going to say a couple more things. AstroBASIC is one of the most common cartridges for the Astrocade. You shouldn't have to spend more than just a couple bucks for that. Maybe you can probably get a new one in a box for $10 to $15. And at the very least, you should be able to get one loose for just no more than $10, really. And unless you're going to be programming in the language, you don't really need the manual because almost everything loads with colon input, and then you just type run. So as a user, you don't need the manual. If you're going to program in it, which there aren't really that many people programming in BASIC anymore, but all the more power to you if you want to. I urge you to try picking it up, the AstroBASIC cartridge, and giving it a whirl, because there's going to be games in the future that I'll be covering which can be loaded with AstroBASIC, and some of them are pretty fun. And if you're used to cartridge games, especially on the 2600 where cartridge games are really fluid and have lots of colors and stuff like that, you're not going to get that kind of quality, but you're going to get games that are still fun, and that's what video games are all about, having fun, not judging on how fast the game moves and things like that. And as I've said before in a couple of my other videos, and as I often say in forums or whatever, that I just get encouraged to see what people were able to do on the Astrocade, especially if that was their only system and they bought it and were programming a game console, you know? Right, I have a couple more comments I want to say after this video, and then that's it. Hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks. Really, the last thing that I want to say about Candyman is something that I posted on April 28th, 2016, when this game was being played in the Astrocade forums. I thought it was a pretty good game, and I posted about that at the time. But after having played several games of it, on a real Astrocade, as opposed to playing it under emulation and MAME, which is possible, by the way. So if you don't have a real Astrocade, Candyman was converted to a cartridge and can be played. And I'm not talking about Ms. Candyman, but this game that you just watched the video about, Candyman. It's I mean, if you have the choice, one or the other, I would play Ms. Candyman. But if you're curious and you want to just check it out, they're both good games. They're very similar, and if I had the choice of playing one or the other, and I would play Ms. Candyman. But as a basic cartridge, or it's really as a basic game with a machine language subroutines, and it's fun. It's interesting to kind of see how Ms. Candyman got formed in its early stages and what it became later. So I said in my post that the graphics don't look as crisp on a real CRT, but the fuzziness kind of adds to the game. So when you're playing it in MAME, everything looks perfectly square. Your characters are like, I don't know, I think maybe 5 pixels wide by 6 tall or something like that. And they look very square and blocky and, you know, what they would call retro gaming type graphics nowadays. But everything is smoothed out on a regular CRT screen with RF modulation being used. And even when I have S-Video hooked up to my Astrocade, it still looks better because it's still a little bit fuzzy because I'm using a CRT monitor or TV as a monitor. So that being said, what I wanted to talk about was my high score for the tape version of this game was 8,940 points. And if you get a chance, try to see if you can beat that. I know I probably could now since I've had a lot more experience playing Ms. Candyman. In fact, as I was playing this game in the video, I was noticing that my game playing has improved just from playing the sequel to this game, so that's kind of neat. The game gets pretty hectic in both versions, the cartridge version and the basic version of the game. The baddies start moving around when they get added to the screen, and it makes playing pretty hard. The most I got to see in Candyman was four baddies on the screen, including myself. In Ms. Candyman, I was able to see all 6 of the baddies and Ms. Candyman on the screen, and things, man, that game gets hard. And I'm sure this game probably does too, but I haven't gotten up to that point to be able to see it all. And one last thing as a hint, if you are playing this game, just like in Ms. Candyman, if you have just one lifesaver to pick up on the screen, you can move into a baddie and you won't get penalized for it because the screen will be finished before you run into the baddie, and I think that's pretty neat. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. It's a little longer than I expected it to be, but there was a lot to cover, and hopefully you have an Astrocade you can fire up and try it out. If not, you can use the Astrocade emulator that's included in MAME, and you can try Candyman, or better yet, even Ms. Candyman, and enjoy both games, and keep playing the Astrocade. Thanks for watching.